From Siberia absolutely failing all across the board to the destination wedding being straight up boring, here are the 10 worst Keanu Reeves movies. Starting with a sci-fi film, Replicas. The plot of the movie centers around a scientist named Will Foster, who tries to bring his family back to life after a tragic accident. One of the biggest issues with the movie is the writing, which was very underdeveloped. The movie tries to tackle some big themes, like the ethics of cloning and the meaning of life, but it does so in a heavy-handed and melodramatic way, leading to a movie that takes itself too seriously, but doesn't have the substance to back it up. Another issue was the special effects. The movie's budget was clearly limited, and it shows in the CGI. The scenes that involve cloning and the replicas themselves look cheap and unconvincing, which takes away from the overall experience of the movie. Lastly, the acting is wooden and uninspired. Even Reeves, who is known for his strong performances, seems to be phoning it in. It's clear that the actors were not given much to work with in terms of the script and direction, and it shows in their performances. While this movie's flop may not have been due to Keanu's acting, that's more than what I can say for the next one. Generation has made it to this list for several reasons. The movie follows Keanu's character and his two female co-stars as they wander around New York City trying to find meaning in their lives. However, the audience is left wondering what the point of it all is. The characters themselves are underdeveloped, and it's hard to care about their struggles or connect with them on any level. And Keanu's character in particular seems to lack any real depth or complexity. He simply wanders through the movie, looking for something to hold on to. Another issue with the movie is the dialogue. The conversations between the characters are unnatural, making it hard to believe in the world of the movie. Finally, the scenes drag on for too long, and the movie seems to meander aimlessly from one moment to the next. Now, the next Keanu film tried to incorporate two genres into one film, and sadly failed to do justice to both. Siberia tried to be both a crime thriller and a romantic drama, but failed to do justice to either genre. The diamond plot was confusing and felt like an afterthought, while the romance plot was underdeveloped and lacked chemistry between Keanu's character and his love interest. Plus, the movie takes a long time for the plot to pick up, and even then, the action lacks tension. There are also several unnecessary subplots that add nothing to the overall story. Keanu's performance was wooden, and the supporting cast didn't fare much better, with many of the performances feeling forced or over the top. Now, you might be thinking, if a movie is bad, then doesn't Keanu's acting save the movie from a terrible rating? But sadly, even our star couldn't save Exposed from failing miserably. The movie tries to juggle several storylines, including the investigation into Keanu's partner's death, his relationship with a witness, and a supernatural element involving visions and a mysterious figure. Unfortunately, the movie fails to tie these elements together in a satisfying way, resulting in a disjointed and confusing mess. And the movie fails to create any real tension or emotional investment in the story or the characters. Additionally, the pacing of the movie is slow, and scenes drag on for too long. The movie struggles to maintain any momentum or sense of urgency, and feels like a slog to get through, with no payoff at the end. But even if a movie has good visuals, it can't make up for the lack of plot and acting, which was the case with The Neon Demon. While the movie is visually stunning, the plot itself is thin and underdeveloped. Reeves plays the role of a sleazy motel owner, but his character is one-dimensional and doesn't leave a lasting impression. In fact, his appearance in the movie is so brief that it's hard to even classify it as a Keanu Reeves movie. The other characters in the movie are equally underdeveloped, making it hard for the audience to connect with any of them. And while some might argue that the movie's lack of clear direction is intentional, it can also come off as pretentious and self-indulgent. There were also scenes of extreme violence and gore that felt out of place. Moving on to lighter movies, we all know Mr. Reeves as the dashing guy who any girl would kill to be with, but when there's zero chemistry, it just won't work, which is one of the reasons why Destination Wedding got a 51% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie relies heavily on the chemistry between Reeves and Winona Ryder, but unfortunately their dynamic falls flat. Their characters are supposed to be snarky and witty, but their banter feels forced and artificial. Furthermore, the movie's plot is predictable and lacks any real substance. It's essentially a series of comedic set pieces and romantic cliches that have been done better in other movies. There's nothing particularly memorable or engaging about the story, and it's hard to care about what happens to the characters. Lastly, while it's marketed as a romantic comedy, it's neither very romantic nor very funny. The humor feels forced, and the romance feels contrived. There's no real sense of chemistry or attraction between the characters, which makes it hard to invest in their relationship. Now, The Bad Batch might have had an amazing cast alongside Keanu Reeves, but even that wasn't enough to save it. Like, it had actors like Jason Momoa and Jim Carrey, and it still failed to deliver a cohesive story. Keanu's character is reduced to a mere caricature of a cult leader. Plus, the post-apocalyptic setting and unique visual style can't save a movie that is ultimately incoherent and unsatisfying. The story is convoluted and confusing, leaving the audience with more questions than answers. So, can a good plot save the movie? Apparently not. The Whole Truth is a legal thriller starring Mr. Reeves as a defense attorney tasked with representing a teenager accused of murdering his father. While the movie has an intriguing premise, it fails to deliver on its potential. One of the biggest issues with the movie is its pacing. The plot moves at a sluggish pace and fails to build any real suspense. The courtroom scenes lack tension, and the characters in the movie are underdeveloped. Another issue was its reliance on tired legal thriller tropes. The movie leans heavily on predictable twists and turns, making the overall plot feel formulaic and uninspired. The next movie leans a bit on the fictional side, yet it still manages to become a flop. 47 Ronin is a fantasy action-adventure film based on a Japanese legend, and unfortunately it falls short of its potential. The story is hard to follow and doesn't make a lot of sense, even for those who are familiar with the original legend. Reeves' character in the movie is also a letdown. His role as the half-breed warrior is one-dimensional and lacks depth. Reeves fails to bring any real emotion or nuance to his character, making him uninteresting to watch. Additionally, the movie's pacing is slow, making it a challenge to sit through. The action scenes are lame and don't have the excitement or impact that you would expect from a big-budget fantasy film. Lastly, it tries to be both a gritty, violent action movie and a mystical fantasy adventure, but fails to balance these elements successfully. The last film had bad acting from not only Reeves, but the other cast members as well. Knock Knock is a thriller film directed by Eli Roth, which follows Reeves' character as he makes the mistake of letting two young women into his home. One of the biggest issues with the movie is its over-the-top acting. Reeves' performance in particular is wooden and lacks the emotion that viewers have come to expect from him. The two female leads, played by Ana de Armas and Lorenza Izzo, are equally problematic, with their performances feeling more like caricatures than real people. The plot meanders and the tension fails to build, leaving the audience feeling bored and uninvested. The movie also relies heavily on shock value, with gratuitous sex scenes and violence that feel unnecessary and exploitative.
It's raining out, it's late at night, and then he hears, opens the door, and who's there but these two lovely young ladies who are in party clothes, and they're like, "Hi, sir, we're lost.
They're
Can you
soaking
help us?"
wet.
Soaking wet.
The movie also tries to be both a thriller and a dark comedy, but the combination falls flat. The humor feels forced and out of place, while the thriller elements lack the necessary tension to keep the audience engaged. That's all the flop Keanu movies for today.